Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatyari Satari. So we continue with this most wonderful diary of Hari Sauri Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada still is still in Vrindavan Dham. September 9th, 1976. Prabhupada decided to visit Tapuriya house for his morning walk. This is a place of life member. This is a place of a life member from Bombay. Now they say Mumbai. Donated just before we left for the world tour in April. Prabhupada has instructed that all the householders, women and children, must reside there instead of in the guest house, where their presence has been a disturbance. Walking down Chatikara Road, he turned left past Vogel Ashram to the house which is situated just at the side of the Vrindavan Parikram path. The grounds of the property are spacious. The main house is 2 stories, and there are a number of small rooms off to the one side. Small rooms off to one side. There is a well and gardens, and the devotees have constructed a high wall for security. Srila Prabhupada closely inspected everything. He was pleased and commented that it was an ideal place for the women and children. It's interesting here. Prabhupada, he mentions Vogel Ashram. The Vogel Ashram is close. You have been there? Yeah. It's close to the temple. And we would always be living there, year after year. And anyway, so as in many places, rich Indians would offer houses to Srila Prabhupada, and expecting that Prabhupada would use them very nicely for preaching and Krishna consciousness. And well, not always. No? Sometimes I would give him something. It was not very clear what this situation, the legal situation of the house was. Just like in Mumbai, Bombay, they got this how you say, terrain. How's it in English?
Land.
Huh?
Land.
The land, yeah. Right. They got the land, and then they actually the person who gave the land sold the land to the devotees. Wanted to cheat the devotees, got the money and then kicked them out. And there's a whole book about this by Girivaj Maharaj. He was, in that time, he was a in-charge man. So we returned to the temple along the back road. Prithu and Vedavyas, this we learned, we already read. Okay, let's start. Srimad-Bhagavatam class was on the 1st, 7th, 10th, the famous Atma-Rama verse. Srila Prabhupada had Pradyumna read out not only the verse, but most of the purport before he spoke. He told us that Lord Chaitanya has explained this verse in 64 different ways, proving that Krishna is all attractive. He said that since Krishna is a Purna, or perfect, if we fix our minds on the lotus feet of Krishna, everything will follow very perfectly. That is promised by Krishna. Tesham satate yuktanam bhajatam pridivovakam. If one is engaged always in love and affection, not as official love, ecstatic love, spontaneous, that is wanted. That example is here in Vrindavan. At least as we get information of Vrindavan from the Shastras, from Srimad Bhagavatam, how spontaneously the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis and the cowherd boys, and the birds, beasts and calves, animals, the trees, everyone, even the flies, the bees, the insects, even the dust, the grass, they are all Chinmaya, spiritual. They are not material, but they are attracted to Krishna in different varieties. Interesting statement. Yeah, but this is very difficult to understand or to perceive, as we go to Vrindavan. This is perceived or seen, darshan, seen by the pure devotees. I remember when we used to go to Vrindavan, the first thing we did when we got to Vrindavan, we threw ourselves on the floor, like a danda, like a stick. And I say, I don't say in English. Yeah, running with all the dust and that was the way that we respect. The first step, pay obeisances to Vrindavan. Yes, because the dust, even the dust in Vrindavan is very, very special. And you notice, when you come to Vrindavan, all your spiritual activities, or your sadhana, like chanting and paying obeisances and all this, has a lot more potency in Vrindavan. You notice that? Huh? And not only that, we heard that when you commit, I say, sinful activities or neglectful activities, there's instant karma. Instant karma means you don't have to wait for the next life, but you get it immediately. That's why I remember when we started going to Vrindavan, we actually always got sick. I was once sent by our GBC at that time, together with Astarata. We went there to Vrindavan. I was accompanying him because he had to buy a lot of things for the deities. So he was our head pujari at that time in Germany. Yeah, and so we went, and then we were not able to stay in the temple because it was a construction camp. And so we went downtown and we went to Dharamshala, to these places where all the pilgrims go, and the holy people, the sannyasis and all these people. And then there was a marriage ceremony at that place, and we had never seen this in India before. They had musicians. One musician was painted blue, playing the flute like that. A lot of activities going on. And we made a big mistake. We tasted the prasad that they had there, and so-called, well, I don't know what prasad. We got so sick. We had so much diarrhea that we had to vomit all the time, like that. And so we became so sick, we had to go to the hospital. And this hospital was outside of Vrindavan. And that's why in Vrindavan, what is very common, when somebody is in a bad shape, the pilgrims, especially there's a lot of lady pilgrims, they dress only one white clothes, and they're normally older, like that. And when they become sick, what they do is they how you say this in English? Afara. No, anyway, that's Spanish. They grab something, so nobody takes them out of Vrindavan and takes them to the hospital because they want to die there. Very interesting. It's a different. But we were going to the hospital, and then as soon as we got a little better, we came back to Germany. And when we got to the airport in Frankfurt, the devotee he couldn't even recognize us because we were so skinny. We were just as skeletons. Anyway, and I also know that some of the devotees had gone to Vrindavan and they never returned because they have such a bad experience with their health. I remember we had an Argentine devotee who went with me to Mayapur, I think. And he got so much mosquito bites. It was all over. He refused to sleep under the mosquito net. like I say, to show off. No? He became so sick, he never returned to Vrindavan. And there was another one here in Germany also. His name was, no, I don't remember the name. No, but he was also became so sick that he never wanted to go back to Vrindavan. Yeah. Anyway, it's not that easy. No, it's not that easy. One has to actually be a devotee when one goes there, and serious devotee. Yeah, and not only that, but also to take full advantage of the place. And, not just passing you all the time in Loy Bazaar, looking at the wonderful things you can buy and all that. Anyway, so Prabhupada used to go to Vrindavan every year. We went to Mayapur first, then that was Prabhupada, for Gopurnima, and then we followed Srila Prabhupada to Vrindavan. Prabhupada normally flew, in an airplane, and we went by train. It was quite some adventure, go by train, because we normally didn't go in first class or second class like that. We went with, any class. There was really some adventure. Sometimes somebody came in with a whole, big basket full of fish, all that. And in India, they don't, respect each other so much. They sit on, when there's no seat, they just sit on your,
lap.
On your lap, And I remember there was one point that I still remember, very nice experience. We were a lot of devotees. We had also, there were also Bengali devotees. Brahmacharis, a lot of them. And then there was one lady who was begging, and somehow she always appeared again. It seems like she also was kind of grabbing something to the train. Anyway, so and she started banging on the because in India you have all these how say this guitar,
Chains.
Yeah. No, she was very small, very old, and she had they always have this container, aluminium container. And she banged on to call the attention, to give the people would give some donations. And then one of the devotees, the Bengalis, went there and said, "Here not, Mataji, the sannyasis here." So she came up like this, she looked at it, saw saffron, and she took everything that she collected and gave it to the devotees. That's the difference. So you have to be very careful, with the beggars in India. Prabhupada even insisted sometimes that when he was traveling and visiting different places, and there were beggars, he told his disciples to give donations. Not how say donations? Donations. Give donations. Yeah. Because actually you never know. And not only that, also to give a good example. You're in public. Especially when the devotees would appear there, everyone stared at them, because many were Westerners, white people, and they never seen, Vaishnavas, white Vaishnavas, and what is that? Anyway, coming back to Köln, is there any question? Eine Frage? Yeah.
Now, Maharaj, for example, in India mainly, outside there are so many beggars. I observed when you give Lakshmi, they will purchase some cigarette or BD and they smoke.
Yeah.
So how should we donate Lakshmi to them, or we should stop?
Well, you should have asked Srila Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada isn't there anymore, it's more difficult. Yes, but Prabhupada insisted, especially when you come from the West. People expecting it. They're not really seeing you so much as a Vaishnava because it is kind of. Yeah. But now, of course, things have changed. Because this was in the beginning. People had no experience, but now, when you travel in India, when we were traveling in South India, that people were very, I say, very kind and very, they appreciate it very much. They invite you to their homes all the time. Yeah, that's a fact. Or they all come together, stare at you. I remember when we went the first time to India, we did parikram and all that. Often, many people came, especially young people came, and they stared at your watch, because they had no watches there at that time. It was something very special. Of course, nowadays they all have their telephones, iPhones and all that. But at that time, not. Also, computers were very, very special. But you would stare at these things like anything. Yeah. Anyway, so Prabhupada used us to make his movement more acceptable. Because Prabhupada had studied had studied it very, very carefully before he came to the West. Just like when you go on vacations to who knows where, and you first start reading something about that place. Prabhupada had done the same thing. And not only that, but it is a fact that when Prabhupada came the first time, there was a lot of mung dal and how to say Haferflocken. What is that?
Oats.
Yeah, oats in it, because he was not sure that he would get vegetarian food. Yeah, actually, it's incredible how Prabhupada came to the West. Not only to the West, but also as such an old person. He was pretty old. Normally, when people get to that age, they become, what is it, Rentner, Rentner und Pensionisten, oder wie das heißt in Deutschland. And they're very afraid to go anywhere, and unless they're probably accompanied by their family or something. He probably went all alone. Yeah. And not only that, he had 3 heart attacks. Normally when they have your heart attack, here they take you to the hospital, they expose you to all kinds of machines and all that. Yeah. And Prabhupada actually mentioned if there would have been another heart attack, he probably would have given up his body. Yeah. But he prayed to Krishna. He had a dream. There was this very nicely explained in the Lilamrita by Satsvaru Maharaj. Anyway, I don't want to extend it unnecessarily. So, yeah.
Können wir dann noch Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita lesen, wenn wir das zu Ende gelesen haben?
Really?
Can we read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita after we finish it?
Yes, of course. That's what we're planning to do. What do you say?
Very good.
So, we read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
No, we read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda.
So we're starting with 579, right? Is
Yes.
Bhara Vipreramane Krishna Bhara Dayavan.
Bhara Vipreramane Krishna Bhara Dayavan.
Avasyamoda Vakyatenho Kari Vipramana.
Avasyamoda Vakyatenho Kari Vipramana.
Bhara Vipreramane Krishna Bhara Dayavan.
Bhara Vipreramane Krishna Bhara Dayavan.
Avasyamora vakyaten ho karive pramana.
Bhada Vipreramane Krishna Bhada Dayavan.
Avasyamora vakyaten ho karive pramana.
Bhada Vipreramane Krishna Bhada Dayavan.
Bhada Vipreramane Krishna Bhada Dayavan.
Avasyamora Vakyaten ho Karibe Pramana.
Avasyamora. Ladies.
Bala Vipreramane Krishna Bala Dayavan.
Bhada Vipreramane Krishna Bhada Dayavan.
Avasyamora Vakyaten ho Karive Pramana.
Avasyamora vakyaten ho karive pramana.
Bala Vipreramane Krishna Bala Dayavan.
Bhada Vipreramane Krishna Bhada Dayavan.
Avasyamora Vakyaten ho Karive Pramana.
Avasyamora vakyaten ho karive pramana. Bhada Vipreramane. Within the mind of the elderly Brahmana. Krishna, Lord Krishna, Bhada, very, Dayavan, merciful, Avashya, certainly, Mora, my, Vakya, words, Tenho, he, Karive, will make, Pramana, evidence, translation of the verse. The elderly Brahmana thought, since Lord Krishna is very merciful, he will certainly come to prove my statement. No, so we're still reading, about the young Brahmana and the old Brahmana. The older Brahmana had made a promise to give the young Brahmana his daughter as a wife. And then when the older Brahmana returned to his home, his whole family was upset that he had promised his daughter to a Brahmana who was not on the same social level. Actually he was a poor Brahmana, whereas this older Brahmana was a member of a richer Brahmana family. Anyway, so the older Brahmana made his promise before the deity in Vrindavan. So then also, they returned, and naturally his family was completely upset. And the Brahmanas was very confused about this, because actually he didn't know what to do. And then when the young Brahmana came to remind him of this promise, beforehand, the son of the Brahmana, the older Brahmana, had promised he would take care of the case. So finally he came, and then the son of the Brahmana, blackmailed the young Brahmana. So the young Brahmana, and the Prabhupada explained that the older Brahmana and the young Brahmana, they were pure devotees. So they actually, not situated on the material platform, the karmic platform. And so the young Brahmana said, well, we had a witness. You promised, you spoke this before the deity. So I will bring the witness. And then the son of the Brahmana, the son of the older Brahmana, he thought, yeah, okay, I accept, yeah. Because he didn't think it was possible that Krishna would come as a deity. He would come to this place. And now you see here, this is the elder Brahmana thought since Lord Krishna is very merciful, he will certainly come to prove my statement. And that's why it's called what was the name of the deity? Sakshi Sakshi Gopal means, the witness, the witness Gopal. So we just continue now. And there's a couple of verses without purpose, so I just continue reading. Putre Ramane Pratimana Asiva Sakshidite E Buddhi Duijana Hi Lila Samate. The atheistic son thought, it is not possible for Gopal to come and bear witness. Thinking thus, the father and son agreed. Chota viprabale patrakahari kana punayena nahichare savavachana. The young Brahmana took the opportunity to speak. Please write this down on paper, black and white, so that you may not again change your word of honor. Tabe savaloke meli patrata dikila dunhara samatilanya madhyasta kila. All the assembled people got this statement down in black and white and taken the signatures of agreement from both of them, served as mediators. Tabe chota viprakahe shune sadavakchana evi prasatya vakya dharma parayana. The young Brahmana then said, well, all you gentlemen present, please hear me. This elderly Brahmana is certainly truthful and is following religious principles. Svavakya charite ihara nahika bhuvana svajana mityavayakahe satyavachana. He had no desire to break his promise, but fearing that his kinsman would commit suicide, he deviated from the truth. Yeah, because actually, I don't know if it's what in the text before, the wife of the Brahmin said that if this would happen, she would commit suicide. That's why it's mentioned here. Inhara punya Krishna ani sakshi bolaiva tabe viprera satya pratigya kiva. By the piety of the elderly Brahmana, I shall call the Supreme Person of Godhead as a witness. Thus I shall keep his truthful promise intact. Eta shuni nastika loka upahasakara keha vale ishvara dayalu asiteha pare. Hearing the emphatic statement of the younger Brahmana, some atheists in the meeting began to cut jokes. However, someone else said, after all, the Lord is merciful, and if he likes, he can come. Tabe se chota vipragela vrindavana dandavat karika hesava vivahana. After the meeting, the young Brahmana started for Vrindavan. Upon arriving there, he first offered his respectful obeisances to the deity and then narrated everything in full detail. Brahmanya deva tumi vada daya maya dui viprera dharmaraka hanya sadhaya. He said, my lords, you are the protector of Brahminical culture, and you are also very merciful. Therefore, kindly show your great mercy by protecting the religious principles of us two Brahmanas. Kanya bhave moramana ihana hisuka Brahmanera bhaktigyavaya e badadukha. My dear Lord, I'm not thinking to become happy by getting the daughter as a bride. I'm simply thinking that the Brahmana has broken his promise, and that is giving me great pain. So now it's a purport of Srila Prabhupada. It was not at all the intention of the young Brahmana to get the daughter of the elderly Brahmana in marriage and thus enjoy material happiness and sense gratification. It was not for that reason that the young Brahmana went to Vrindavan to ask the Supreme Personality of Godhead to act as a witness. His only concern was that the elderly Brahmana had promised something, and if Gopal did not bear witness to that transaction, then the older Brahmana would incur a spiritual blemish. Therefore, the young Brahmana wanted protection and help from the deity. The young Brahmana was thus a pure Vaishnava. He had no desire for sense gratification. He wanted only to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the older Brahmana, who was also Vaishnava and very much devoted to the Lord. No, so it says here, no, he was not concerned, no, whether he got that daughter or not. He was not interested, he was not a karmi. No, karmi means they engage in all kinds of activities with fruitive desires. They don't do things out of affection, but they're always thinking of their own benefit, of their own sense gratification. But there's a big difference, between karmis and Vaishnavas, devotees. Everything devotees do is for the pleasure of Krishna. That's what we're learning. Gradually develop this devotion, this pure devotion, by following the process of Krishna consciousness, which is a great science, like Prabhupada said. All these principles, all these regulations are meant to reawaken our eternal relationship with Krishna. What is that relation? Devotion. And it's the only way to understand God, to understand really what is God, is by devotional service. Of course, there's Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, and Yoga Mishra Bhakti. In the beginning, of course, we're not yet perfect. There's still something mixed in, personal desires mixed in. But as you continue practicing seriously devotional service, naturally you start to advance. And what is that advancement? Actually, it means that you develop taste. In the beginning, it might be difficult to chant Hare Krishna, but if you get used to it and you practice it seriously, you more and more develop taste. That means that you start accepting everything favorable in devotional service and giving up everything unfavorable. At the beginning, it must be, it may require some strength, tapasya. It might be difficult to get up every morning early for Brahma Muhurta. But as you practice, naturally you develop taste. And one day maybe you're not able to get up early, whatever the reason is, there's something important missing, isn't it? Yeah, something very important missing. You don't feel the same way. You're more under the influence of the modes of nature, passion and ignorance. Anyway, so this, here we see the nice example of the young Brahmana. He was very preoccupied for the older Brahmana, because Brahmanas are supposed to be honest. Whatever they promise, they're supposed to comply. That's why we have the custom that when people want us to promise something, we're very careful in promising, because we might not be sure if you actually can promise. Of course, this is expected. That's like when you become initiated in Krishna consciousness, you also make a promise. It's a very, very serious promise to follow the principles and to chant minimum 16 rounds. Yeah. And it's actually the ceremony itself is organized in a way that there are many witnesses. The deities are there as witness, the spiritual master, all the devotees are witnesses. You can't say, well, I never promised it. That's why it's done, you know, in this frame. That's why we, you know, this whole ceremony is there. That's the real reason. So the Brahmana, you know, showing his excellent, his perfect example. He couldn't tolerate it, you know, that the older Brahmana was not able to comply with his promise. You know, and he, like Bhagavad says here, everything he did, going back to see the deity, you know, it was just because he was feeling for the Brahman, trying to help the Brahman, help the devotee. And because the devotees are very important. You know? And when one gets the opportunity to associate with devotees, you know, this is a very good opportunity. You know? You should go give some service, care of the devotee, the well-being of the devotee. You know? Because, why? Because these devotees are very, very dear to Krishna. And Krishna doesn't tolerate any inconvenience, you know, due to your influence. You know? That's how every day we hear, you know, that devotees should be respected properly. You know? Yeah. Should be respected properly. There's a whole etiquette. Just like we learn, you know, Prabhupada mentioned the Kanishta Adhikar, you know, the beginner still doesn't see things, you know, in the proper perspective, how in English? Yeah. He doesn't see properly. And because of that, and because of his old customs, alte Gebräuche, you know, he even commits offenses. And that's why it's always mentioned, Prabhupada always mentioned, in this regard he mentions, you know, that these devotees should be engaged properly. You know? Even worshiping the deity is also meant for that. You know? Because in deity worship there's so many principles. You know? Actually in our movement, the deity worship has to be reduced very much. But there's much more to do. You know? So many principles. This was actually the Yuga Dharma, you know, Dwapara Yuga. You know, it was very, very much, I say, umfangreicher, what is that? Yeah, much more elaborate. And so many mantras and all that, and these people who worship the deities were supposed to be first-class brahmanas also. You know, very difficult to find nowadays. But Prabhupada gave us this worship of the deities, you know, to maintain our sadhana properly. Like we see, you know, sometimes when you're preaching and all this, you can't follow all the million principles, or the many principles. You know, let's say, for example, you do the program late at night, you know, and you have difficulties in getting up in the morning because you might only have 1 or 2 hours to rest like that. But as soon as, you know, when we're in these kind of conditions, you know, this is an Ausnahme. What is that? Exemption. It's an exemption. Exemption. You know, it's not. It shouldn't be the rule. You know, so, you know, when you're preaching and traveling a lot, then often you have, in circumstances that you cannot follow all these rules and regulations. You know, but as soon as we can, we should go back to the proper sadhana. And Prabhupada mentioned, I mentioned that many times, sorry for repeating it again. You know, Prabhupada said actually the Paramahamsas, they don't have to follow all these principles because they are in a different level. You know, they're already completely absorbed in their loving devotional service to Krishna, accepting all kinds of inconveniences. But Prabhupada said Paramahamsa, but to teach, to give an example, also follows all the rules and regulations strictly. Yeah? Not because they need it, because they give an example. So let's continue, unless somebody has a question or comment. So, etang janitumi shakshi dehadaya maya Jnani Shakshina Hideha Tara Papahaya. The young Brahmana continued, my dear sir, you are very merciful and you know everything. Therefore kindly be witness in this case. A person who knows things as they are and still does not bear witness becomes involved in sinful activities. So he's speaking very personally to the deity. That shows that he was actually on a different platform. He was not a sadhaka. He spoke directly to the deity. And expecting that the deity respond. This was his relationship with Krishna. So, then purport, Bhagavad writes a purport. The dealings between a devotee and the Lord are very simple. The young Brahmana said to the Lord, you know everything, but if you do not bear witness, you will be involved in sinful activities. Hare Krishna. There is no possibility, however, of the Lord's being involved in sinful activities. A pure devotee, even though he knows everything of the Supreme Lord, can speak with the Lord exactly as if he were a common man. Although the dealings between the Lord and his devotee are always very simple and open, there's formality. All these things happen because of the connection between the Lord and the devotee. Yeah, there's because it's very difficult to understand for neophytes, this relationship. The advanced souls like the young Brahmana had with the deity. This should not be done in front of people, of persons who are not on that level. Like Prabhupada never spoke in public in his classes and all that about the intimate relations of the gopis with Krishna. This is something that should not be done because it can easily be misunderstood, especially by those who are not very Krishna conscious. Can be easily misunderstood. Yes. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's the same thing also. He was only, like, I remember there was when he started his Sankirtan, his Kirtan movement, Sankirtan movement, he went to the house of, what was that? It's still there, the house is still there, close to Temple, Mayapur. Anyway, so he called all the devotees and they were chanting with closed doors. Srivastava. He didn't allow anybody, any outsider to come in. And that also created problems. The neighbors were speculating like anything. Anyways, so they even accused, they threw something on the door, as if he had worshipped Kali or something like that. And so when they came out, they saw this. Actually, to defame him, to defame Sivan. And Chaitanya, there was even one person who was not included in the group, but somehow he got in. He hid something somewhere in the house. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started the kirtan, and he felt a disturbance. So the kirtan couldn't get going, like it should have been. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's somebody here who doesn't belong here. So they searched and they found that person. And I don't remember what happened to him, but I think he stayed by the mercy of somebody. No, remember that? Yeah, he stayed or not?
It was two times. One time it was the owned of somebody who the owned of the participant. But
I don't think it's this good. Anyway, you should read more Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hare Krishna. A good start to chant the Chaitanya Charitamrita is reading the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the beginning, Prabhupada thought that he might not have so much time to finish everything. So he also made a resume of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the form of Krishna book. And he also gave us the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, he published his book in the very beginning in New York. And he couldn't figure out what so many of these books, what would happen with these books. They couldn't, there was no Sankirtan, book distribution yet. Even though Prabhupada was always very pleased when somebody asked for the books. I remember from Lilamrita, there's a mention that Satsvaruvaj, he was one of the first devotees who came to Srila Prabhupada. He came once and he asked for the 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada stopped everything. He was so surprised, so, happy that somebody was asking for his Srimad Bhagavatam. And we heard also then when book distribution started, and the devotees started, that was actually in California, in Los Angeles, in these regions. So when Prabhupada heard about the quantity of books again, he was surprised. He was surprised. Sometimes Prabhupada manifested this, this mood, kind of even childish mood, surprised by what was happening, about book distribution and other things also. Anyway, let's go back to Chaitanya Charitamrita. Confirmed. Krishna kahi vipratumi ahasva pavane savakari moratumi kahi swarane. Lord Krishna replied, my dear Brahmana, go back to your home and call a meeting on all of them. In that meeting, just try to remember me. Avirabhava hanya amitahan shakshi jiva duvidu viprena satya pratigya rahiva. I shall certainly appear there, and at that time I shall protect the honor of both you Brahmanas by bearing witness to the promise. Viprabali yadihau chaturbhuja murti tavuto maravakyaha nahavi pratiti. The young Brahmana replied, my dear sir, even if you appear there as a 4-handed Vishnu deity, still none of those people will believe in your words. Se murtigi yayadi eishi vadane shakshi dehayadi tave sarvalokashune. Only if you go there in the form of Gopal and speak the words from your beautiful face will your testimony be heard by all the people. Krishna kahe pratima chale kutaha sashuni viprabale pratima hanya kahe kanavani. Lord Krishna said, I've never heard of a deity walking from one place to another. Purport. The Brahmana replied, what is that? There's a mistake here. Anyway, the Brahmana replied, that is true, but how is it that you are speaking to me, although you are a deity? Pratimadhahetumi shakshat varachendra nandana vipradagi karitumi akaya karana. My dear Lord, you are not a statue. You are directly the son of Maharaj Nanda. Now, for the sake of the old Brahmana, you can do something you have never done before. Sri Gopalaji then smiled and said, my dear Brahmana, just listen to me. I shall walk behind you, and in this way I shall go with you. Purport. The conversation between Lord Sri Krishna and the Brahmana is proof that the Lord in his Achamurti, or form made of material elements, is not material. For those elements, although separated from the Lord, are also a part of the Lord's energy, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Because the elements are the Lord's own energy, and because there's no difference between the energy and the energetic, the Lord can appear through any element, just as the sun can act through the sunshine and thus distribute its heat and light. So Krishna, by his inconceivable power, can appear in his original spiritual form in any material elements, including stone, wood, paint, gold, silver, and jewels. Because the material elements are all his energy, the Shastras warn, Arche Vishnav Shiladi Nara Kisaha. One should never think of the Archamurti, the deity within the temple, as stone, wood, or any other material elements. Because of his advanced devotional position, the younger Brahmana knew that although the deity of Gopala appeared to be stone, he was not stone. He was the son of Nanda Maharaj, Vajendra Nandana himself. As such, the deity could act exactly as the Lord does in his original form as Krishna. Lord Krishna was talking to young Brahmana just to test his knowledge about the Archa Vigraha. In other words, those who have understood the science of Krishna, Krishna's name, form, qualities, and so forth, can also talk with the deity. To an ordinary person, however, the deity will appear to be made of stone, wood, or some other materials. In the higher sense, since all material elements ultimately emanate from the supreme spiritual entity, nothing is really material. Being omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient, Krishna can deal with his devotee in any form without difficulty. By the mercy of the Lord, the devotee knows perfectly well about the Lord's dealings. Indeed, he can talk face to face with the Lord. Yeah. Another instance, Bhagavad also mentioned that Krishna can change material energy into spiritual energy, and spiritual energy into material energy. This is actually part of the installation ceremony of the deities. That the senior devotee or the acharya or the guru, he begs the deity, please come, enter into this form, and I promise you that we will always serve you. And this is part of the installation ceremony. And there's also, the brahmanas also have straw in the hand, and they touch the deity with that, begging the Lord to enter into the deity. Anyway, so this is understanding that only devotees can realize. Nobody else can realize this. And there's many examples. The deities speaking to the devotees or doing things inconceivable. But this is not meant to be, published, publicized. Without proper training, actually devotional service is not that you jump, but you go step by step by step by step. Under the guidance of a proper spiritual master, who knows the science of Krishna consciousness, knows the process of devotional service. It says that Adau Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya means the spiritual master gives the seed of devotional service to the disciple. It's up to the disciple to neutral, it's right near. And that's actually what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained very nicely in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. How this from the seed comes a, wie sagt man, die Sprosse, wie sagt man Deutsch? Wie sagt man das denn? Anyway, yeah, little seedling, seedling, and it grows and grows and grows, and even penetrates the coverings of the universe, of the material elements, and goes into to the spirit, no? It goes up to the spiritual world. You have a comment?
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the main purpose of, or main goal of the spiritual master? To bring the disciple to which level? Bring the disciple to which level?
Well, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that at the end, this plant grows, takes shelter on Krishna's feet, and then there manifest fruits and flowers, like that, in the form of pure love of God. Huh? You didn't read that? You didn't read this? You don't remember?
I remember that he said that to bring the devotee to the lotus feet to the Lord.
Yes. So it doesn't stop. No, actually, this means it doesn't stop in Vaikuntha. It goes up to Krishna Loka. Yeah. And this is a very specialty of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. Yeah. The Madhurya Rasa, the most intimate relation with Krishna. Yeah. Practically unknown before. Yeah. Even our, like the Sampradaya-charya, the Ramanujacharya and Madhva, they didn't get up to that platform with their teachings. What was the devotee who appeared in the Madhva Sampradaya? He was a godbrother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru. Madhvacharya. No. Madhavendra. He was actually the first one who introduced this mood into our Sampradaya. Preparing the event of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, because the former acharyas, they were teaching the reverential mood, like see Krishna as something, and maintain a distant relationship. Like Prabhupada gave example, like a citizen with a king. The citizen doesn't play with the king and this and that. Nobody always maintains a very reverential attitude in his relationship. Whereas Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, didn't teach any of that. He was a direct representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even though Prabhupada, like I mentioned before, Prabhupada didn't make it, public, that kind of, But you would notice sometimes. I was in a class of Srimad Bhagavatam in Mayapur with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada started speaking, all of a sudden he stopped. And tears came out of his ears, and he just didn't say anything anymore. He was just sitting there, everyone was staring at Prabhupada. And then later on, then he continued. He continued. And then after this, he spoke with some disciples. Actually, what happened was that when this Prabhupada manifested this mood, devotees didn't know what to do really, especially the leaders. And all of a sudden, Hans Ruda started singing kirtan. And after that, there was a discussion amongst the senior devotees. Some criticized him. You shouldn't have done the kirtan. And others said, yes, it was good to start the kirtan. Yeah. And Prabhupada said, also mentioned that but was it okay or something? Sorry for this. But Prabhupada never manifested these moods in public normally. Yeah. Yes, so this is what we learned from Srila Prabhupada. He gave us example for all these different things. He was a perfect example. Was that okay? Yeah? I'm still answering a question. Any more questions or comments? Yeah, better.
When the worship of the responsibilities becomes a burden. What is the reason for it?
Because we're kanishtarika. We don't see things properly. Why you ask?
I don't know, I've just heard once, sometimes it becomes too...
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is something that is there. Yeah. Just like some time back, some months back, in one temple, devotees were pushing me to give second initiation to one disciple. And even though the disciple was actually not fully qualified, they pushed so much because they had no something happened to the pujari and they needed a pujari. And I don't like that. Actually, Brahman initiation, like I mentioned before, is not something that should be demanded. It is something that the spiritual master offers to the disciple. When the spiritual master sees it, that the disciple is actually advancing, becoming purified more and more, manifesting his Brahminical qualities, then it should be offered. Habe ich das hier gesagt? Oder woanders war das? Anyway. Yeah. When it's a burden, that means that there's something missing. Yeah. Of course, sometimes the management is under great pressure. Somebody bloops. What bloops? They don't say this anymore nowadays. This is actually a term that Prabhupada gave us, blooping. When you throw something into the water, it means bloop. That's where it comes from. Anyway, so yes, that's unfortunate. We have very nice pujaris here. We're really inspired to worship the deity. No, isn't it? When you see them on the altar, it's very nice. No? You like to worship deity, don't you? Yeah. Nikayani also. Who else is there? Yeah, anyway. I don't know the names. They do it with a lot of, they like it. And that's how it should be. Actually, the more you advance in Krishna consciousness, more you're ready to render service to Krishna or to the spiritual master, even under difficulties. Yeah. Just like Prabhupada, when he came to America, there were so many problems that Prabhupada had. But the devotees, when they asked Prabhupada, wasn't it difficult in New York? And Prabhupada said it was ecstasy. It was ecstasy. Yeah. That's another kind of bliss. By pleasing Krishna, you might not be very comfortable, whatever. But if you just make it your life, to give service to Krishna and the devotees, even though it might be very difficult. You might experience so many difficulties, but still, you look back, it was actually ecstatic. Like that sometimes we have our Sankirtan meetings, and devotees tell us, what happened, wow, so many problems and difficulties, but they were in ecstasy. I remember we used to call this, when we went on Sankirtan, we used to call this, the end of the day, we used to call super distribution ecstasy. Then we had come to a point we didn't want to stop, we want to go on. But the Sankirtan leader demanded, no, now you come back to the car and tell me your results and all that. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Habe ich deine Frage beantwortet? Aber?
Ja, man könnte sich noch mehr drüber unterhalten.
Ja. Ist nicht klar?
Ist eine Zeitfrage natürlich.
Ah?
Ist eine Zeitfrage natürlich auch, wie lange man sich drüber unterhalten. Das würde jetzt den Rahmen sprengen.
Ach so. Ja, sprich doch mal hier mit den Pujaris. Ne? Ne? Wir haben einige hier, die du fragen kannst, an denen du ein Beispiel nehmen kannst. Ich wollte eigentlich über Sanatan Goswami sprechen, habe ich vergessen jetzt. Weil heute ist Erscheinungstag von Sanatan Goswami.
Heute ist auch Guru Purnima.
Ja. Guru Purnima bedeutet das Vyasa-san, oder der Schein Vyasadevas. Guru Purnima. And Guru Purnima, just like Vyasa Puja or Vyasa-san. This comes from Vyasadeva. When it's Vyasa Puja also, the Guru is worshipped as a representative of Vyasadeva. And that's why those who are actually representatives of Vyasadeva should be honored. Not just anybody. Of course, I forget about me. I'm just saying things as I heard it. What do you think? Is that probably better if somebody else explains it? I was once speaking also singing on the Vyasa-san, giving a class, and we were. The text was about guruship, So I explained what the guru is, what he should not do, and he should do like that. And then the godbrother came, walked up to me and said, "You're speaking about yourself, right?" Wow, I felt so ashamed, Srila Prabhupada Ki. So I wish you have a nice day in Krishna consciousness today.